name and affiliation. Microphone, please. Thank you.
I'll be quick. I won't get the fish issue to death. I just want to say my name is Sean Jalbert, SHAWN, JALBERT. And I just wanted to make the point of the fact that they're, like everybody's saying, it's not a dead river below the Kesslen Dam, and there's certainly alewives I can definitely. I've seen many dozens begin trying to figure out, okay, the dam is here, how are we getting above it? And also, I just wanted to point out the fact that I think it was the Allman study that was referenced just a short time ago. I read that, at least a reference to it, I was kind of taken aback by the almost open biasness of it. The fact that, when they did their sampling, they didn't find a heck of a lot. Like, all you really have to do is go down to the dam and look to see what's in there. Very big proponent of just, instead of reading reports and kind of believe what others are telling you, just to go out for yourself and see what's there and how much that will reveal. And also just to point out that the dam's been in place for almost 200 years. Of course, you're not going to have huge runs of fish coming up through it anymore. Their habitat has been radically altered, and their access to that habitat has been limited for that amount of time. And looking at some of these other more successful projects in the dam's caught fish ladders that was mentioned, and that's just been a sound success in terms of getting fish up and over this dam that's been in place since the 1700s. But also on the Presumpscot River, they're having alewives jumps now 50,000 reaching Highland Lake up the Wyndham over just the course of 10 years. So that's a wonderful success story. I'm sure we're all familiar of the Edwards Dam rule, the Kennebunk, and now they're counting in the hundreds of thousands of alewives, certainly much lesser numbers of other fish species such as salmon, shad, eels, and such. I think that's all I have to say. I just wanted to address the fact that if you take it down and you make modifications, they will come. And there's proof of that all around the state.
Yeah, thank you. Aquatics issues are definitely a big issue in this project, and thank you for your comments on the record. The next set of issues are terrestrial nature. We propose to look at the effects of continued project operation and riparian and wetland habitat and associated wildlife, including waterfowl and wetland-dependent birds. And second, effects of continued project operation and upland wildlife habitat and associated wildlife. Are there any questions or comments regarding terrestrial resources, those bullets we have for terrestrial resources? Okay. Name and affiliation.
Yeah, quick comment, Alex Mendelson again. If you read Steve Hawley's book, you find that the fish that migrate, that are spawned in the Pacific Northwest rivers where his research occurred, swim across the Pacific Ocean to the Sea of Japan. It takes them a few years. There are predators that thrive on them, and then they turn around and they come back to the rivers where they were spawned. And they lay their eggs and then they die. And the analysis of their DNA is taken from the foliage along the river and from the animals that come and eat the fish that die after they spawn. And they're finding the DNA of the sea-run fish in the trees and the bushes and the various animals that come down to the river. So it's an once again, it's an ecosystem. There's a lot of specious arguments being made. I know recently there was a fair here in town last summer where supposedly some of these issues were brought before the public. And one of the large displays showed a vernal pool. Well, vernal pools have nothing to do with rivers. The species that live in vernal pools exist because they're not connected to waterways and there are no predators. But pairing the existence of a vernal pool with a riverine system is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions on terrestrial? There's actually a correction in this slide.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Oh.
that's okay. You didn't see me coming.
Name and affiliation.
Neither did Mousam Kennebunk River Alliance.
Should I go back to
Terrestrial, please.
Could you please back up a couple inches from the mic and give us your name?
Is that good? Donna Teague, T-E-A-G-U-E. I am a resident, river abutter, ratepayer, taxpayer, and the founder of Keep Our Kennebunk Dam, Save the Mousam. I'm not sure of how you're doing all this, and so I had comments I was going to make at the end. But since we're on terrestrial, one of the gentlemen who just very recently spoke said to me at that same Earth Day fair, when I said, you know, right now, we have a whole ecosystem. I see it all the time. It's rich, it's plentiful, it's beautiful, and it's packed with every kind of creature you can imagine. What happens when that river goes to a wave pool? And what happens to that ecosystem? He told me, well, maybe we don't need them. I hope that FERC is about more than fish. I hope FERC also considers the creatures that are out there. Who has a right to judge what ecosystem is to be in place? This one's been there for over 200 years. So I'll have more to say later, but that's my take on terrestrial.
Thank you for your comment. For endangered species, there's actually a correction to make on this one. The threatened cannibally, is that right? That species got on that slide by error, so that's not supposed to be there. It's only the northern long-eared bat that we're concerned about at this point. So, are there any questions on threatened endangered species? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Betsy Gameshi, and I am a resident.
Could you spell it?
Yeah, that's a hard one. So it's B-E-T-S-Y, and last name G-Y-I-M-E-S-I. So we moved here about 2 years ago. Before we could build, we have about 5 acres right along the river. We had to have all sorts of environmental studies done. We had these done by Stantec. They did find on our property a significant number of vernal pools, and yes, the river does cause them. The water is trickling in there and causing these big pools. And in them, they found endangered species of a black spotted salamander and some woodland frogs. I do have those studies that I can forward to you guys. They were done by Stantec. So that's my take on endangered species.
Okay, yeah, we would like to get that into the record, especially if it's relevant to property adjacent to the river. Thank you. Let me just add that our scoping document, and there are stacks of them back there, has instructions for how to submit that. Yeah, thank you.
I would just like to add to the record that spotted salamanders and wood frogs are the species that are in vernal pools. And the reason they exist is because there is no connection to any waterway where there are predators.
Thank you. Someone mentioned recreation earlier, so in the rec and land use, we're proposing to look at the effects of continued project operation and maintenance, land use within the project area. Just to go through like before, are there any questions or comments on the recreation and land use? Not,
Just to mention really quick, our scoping document, if you're looking at it on page 13, also includes under this section aesthetic resources. Right now, the bullet for recreation just says, continued project operation of recreational use in the vicinity of the project. But if there are any additional issues related to the aesthetics of the river, that would be the time to discuss it.
Yeah.
When you get into the town reports in the
Mr.
library.
Sorry, Mr. Ashley,
Peter Ashley.
could you please back up slightly? Just
Just
another,
a tad.
not that much, but just an inch or two back from where you
Is that
were.
enough? No, it's fine. No, it's fine.
Or a little bit.
That should be good right
Blake, you got a micrometer? Okay. All right, here we go. I'll try. How many of you gentlemen, and this is an unfair question. How many people of you fellows coming from wherever understand why Old Falls was built? You know why it was built? Okay, back in the old days, before me and you and everybody around you probably, they had walking, they had horses, carriages, and then someone went to New York or someplace and saw a horse-drawn carriage called a trolley, and then someone designed an electric motor to drive it. We lived somewhere in the middle of Manhattan. Direct current, I believe. Fort Tesla at that time hadn't invaded his territory. So they took that idea and they came up here because it was a good place to spend the summer, cool, et cetera, et cetera. And so they said, where can we get some direct current electricity before the AC? So they said, oh, there's a river up there in Kennebunk, and we want to have beaches, et cetera, around. We want to go to the ballroom up in Cape Porpoise and go dancing. And and by the way, they wanted to get the coal from Cape Porpoise up to the mills in Sanford. And they said, aha, well, we'll cater to the people in the daytime and we'll move the coal at night. So they built Old Falls, and it's 40 feet high, and it's concrete blocks, and you ought to go look at it. And if you go to the Brick Store Museum, right up at the end of the road here, and get Ross Magnuson's book, Textiles, something else, and Transits. It's a fantastic book of the history of our river. You should study it down at FERC and see what went on in this river and the dates on it and all that, because it gives a real big insight into what this town means to us, and it also what the river means to us. You're talking, the Twine Mill produced all the fishing twine for almost half the world. They shipped it all over the world in the sailboats. And they made it up in the Twine Mill. That's why it's called the Twine Mill. So Dane Perkins was a sawmill. They needed to cut up the boards, and they hauled it over the snow with oxen and built all these houses for the people working at the shoe shop and the Twine Mill. So Old Falls is named that way for a specific reason. It developed the trolley system in this area, and the Trolley Museum is on Log Cabin Road. It's the biggest, best trolley museum in the whole world. You ought to go visit that one.
Thank you.
So that's what recreational land use is in this area.
And the cultural resource? Oh, yeah, sure.
Just while we're going off on tangents,
I'm name and affiliation.
I'm Bill Pasquill, Pasquill. resident, taxpayer, and all that good stuff. My point is recreation and land use. Right now, there's a lot of land that's flooded by the impoundments that we can't use. If we thought of removing the dams, that would allow that land to be used for a river walk, great access to the river, and also the town owns a landing across from the high school on Intervale Road, where people could put in canoes, kayaks, or just have access. And we also have the access down to the Kesslen Dam where you'll meet tomorrow. And that would be a great, approximately mile area of access to the river, whereas now no one can have access to it because it's flooded, called the impoundment. So land use is possible if we remove the water from the land that's there. Thank you.
Yes, sir?
Sean Teague, resident of Kennebunk, ratepayer, taxpayer, etc. The topic on the screen is the effects. Excuse
Could you
me.
back up a little bit?
Back up.
Spell your name for the court reporter, please. Spell your name for the court reporter, sir.
Sean, spelled the wrong way, S-H-A-W-N. Last name is Teague, T-E-A-G-U-E. On the screen, the topic says the effects of the continued project operation and maintenance on land use within the project area. In other words, if hydro generation continues, everything stays just as it is, as we have known it for generations. Take the dams away, no river. The only thing that creates that river are the dams themselves. The Wright Pierce report itself, in the cross-sections, show you take those dams out, the width of the river is reduced by 80%, the depth of the river is reduced by 90%. So, draw your own conclusions about how much recreation is going to be left within the Mousam River, how much fish will be able to swim in a waterless river. The other thing when it comes to maintenance of land is, you take away the dams, and now you're going to have possibly huge infrastructure issues to deal with. Who's going to pick up the tab for that? Is the MKRA going to do that? Or the Sierra Club? Or Nature Conservatory? Or is it going to be left upon the taxpayers in the town to deal with the infrastructure that will be created when those dams go out? The other thing that maybe people aren't aware of is that upstream there is the wastewater treatment plant of Sanford. That wastewater treatment plant puts 2.5 million gallons of effluent into the Mousam River per day. I used to work with an engineer a long time ago. I worked in civil engineering offices for approximately 30 years. His motto used to be, the solution to pollution is dilution. You have significantly reduced water levels in that river, and this thing's going to get a little smelly. I don't think that's a very good idea for Kennebunk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jesse Whitehouse, ratepayer, taxpayer, Jesse Whitehouse. I'm a little late. I just wanted to add to, I can't remember the name of the section. I think it was recreation and et cetera. Well, it's more about fishing. Fishermen.
Okay.
Yeah, so my perspective is being on the river a lot, and it's a pretty healthy river. There's a lot of fishing there. It's really beautiful. But from what I've heard about other towns that have opened up their river systems and taken out their dams, one thing that benefit is that the alewife population is able to get further upriver and have more places to spawn. And they're a really important bait fish, kind of critical to the ecosystem. So the more places they have to be, wildlife that is dependent on that, it attracts too. And there's already a lot of wildlife there, but from what I've heard about those places where the dams have already been removed, it's only gotten better. You know, we have striped bass coming in up the river from the ocean, and if we got rid of the dams, that would give them access to get further upstream, cross breed with bigmouth bass, and chasing more walleyes. So I think we'd have a bigger game fishing population for a lot of that. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no other comments on recreation, cultural resources. We're proposing to look at the effects of continued project operation on historic properties and archaeological resources. Any questions on cultural resources? Comments? Yes, sir.
I may have misunderstood. I probably should have spoken in the previous.
Okay, that's fine. We can go back. Can you just please state your name and
My
affiliation?
name is Evan Marsh. Evan with a D. I live in Scarborough. I do not live in Kennebunk. That river does not belong to the abutters. It belongs to everyone in the state of Maine. I've heard that it's a very rich environment with the impoundments. I've also heard from the same folks that the dams, one of the perils of removing those dams is it releases contaminants that are also impounded. Free-flowing water does not harbor contaminants. Free-flowing water creates oxygenation, which actually contributes to clean water. I'm 74 years old and probably won't be here when those dams are finally removed. But my grandsons will be, and their grandchildren will be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Finally, under development and resources, we're proposing to look at the economics of the proposed project and the effects of environmental measures on project economics. Are there any questions pertaining to economics? So that will conclude our issues, the scoping document, and this slide includes a list of, yes, sir.
That last slide.
Yeah.
What does it say on there over on the left? Something about carbon?
Oh, that's just an example. That doesn't pertain to the issues at all. This is a picture we put to make the slideshow pretty.
Does it have anything?
No. We just put it on there so the slideshow can.
We're not allowed to talk about carbon tonight?
Oh, you can talk about whatever topic you want to talk about.
Okay. Thank you for putting up with my nonsense, but I think it's about time on the clock to start thinking about a little nonsense. But I had, I can't remember it really quickly off the top of my head, but I think it was Alex Mendelson tonight came up and thanked me. Is that okay? Yes. Okay, let me see. Wait a minute, let me check my pen. Alex Mendelson came up to me tonight and he thanked me for telling him about the book that I suggested to him quite a while back, but I can't remember how far back, because I'm 81. It's the book by James Hansen is still stands out in the world of writing a scientific basis information for the masses to try and get them interested in talking about the future of our planet. And this has to do about carbon and a couple of oxygens that like carbon. And the thing about carbon dioxide, you all know by now, you should know, it's like putting a down blanket on your bed at night when the room's down to 34 and you want to be in Florida. So you climb in under the down blanket and you're in Florida. So unfortunately, if you were making it's a carbon dioxide blanket for this planet. And when I first got interested in the actual facts when I was reading his books, I think it was down around 370 or so parts per million. And then the other day I heard it was up around 405 or higher. And people love to talk about going to Dunkin' Donuts or whatever in the morning, and they don't think about the carbon dioxide coming out of their tailpipe going to get their morning coffee, when they could make it on their kitchen stove for 13 cents a cup for Market Basket. So they would use a tiny bit of propane, even though it's only around 92,000 billion BTUs per gallon against oil at 125 or so, 125,000 that is. So they don't think about the thermodynamics yet about global warming and the energy they use, etc. We know it takes about 30 to 33% more energy to get the electricity from the coal mines up to New England. But you go stick a little propeller in the river and what have you got? You've got about 98% efficiency in the turbine. You've got very close to that, or maybe even more now with the variable frequency units. You've got electricity for above 92% efficiency instead of 33% efficiency in a coal plant, which is spewing out coal. It's the greatest container of carbon dioxide. So that little slide up there says carbon, climate, and energy, renewable electricity impacts, etc. That is an extremely important and appropriate thing to have on that slide. And I think the development resources of the forefathers of this town knew when they came to this country they had to put something somewhere to get some kind of power to take over the backbreaking work of an up and down sawmill. I don't know if any one of you have tried doing it down there, like Old Sturbridge Village or someplace like that. You send the big guy down in the pit and the little guy up at the top, or is it the other way around? Anyway, that's carbon dioxide. You've got the big guy, he gives off more breath, carbon dioxide, and the little guy at the top gives off a little less. So maybe it's important to think about which way you put them, depending upon how much carbon dioxide they give off. So now, this is now a little after I started thinking we need a little mirth. And so I think you ought to think of a little mirth and wonder what's going on with the carbon dioxide. I know when I helped put those dams together, I stopped working as the founder of the New England Solar Energy Association to stop and work on those hydroelectric dams because I knew it was a more efficient way of reducing the carbon on this planet. The thermal solar systems work great. Mine was 114 this morning. And photovoltaics is coming on strong. It's now hit over the 20% mark. But we need all the hens to start laying eggs real fast with no carbon dioxide in them.